Okay, first panel of the day, building the open AI. Invite the panelists up, please. Woo! And a fun fact, there's 190 people here already, so that's pretty awesome. Come on up. Oh yeah, you can sit in the order of your pictures. Okay.
So thank you, Maggie, and everyone for being here. I think that this is an exciting topic, and I think it's been a little bit overwhelming because at ETH Denver, I think there's 3 or 4 crypto AI events every day. So, and we have wonderful panelists that all have engineering backgrounds, and they're really at the forefront of the pulse of this ecosystem. They're fantastic builders and investors. So I think we'll briefly introduce ourselves. I'll start. My name is Rahilla Zafar, and I currently work at Stability AI, where we create open source AI models. We're most known for Stable Diffusion. So it's great to meet you all.
Hey everyone.
Is your mic on?
My mic is off.
Oh, okay.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Cool. Hey everybody, my name is Eva. I'm on the founding team of Ritual, which is an AI coprocessor for blockchains. We focus on letting people be able to easily access and inject AI into the protocol project. And I'm on the founding team focused on ML.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren. I'm a partner at Pantera Capital, where I've been for the past 6 years investing into infrastructure in the crypto space, and Pantera is one of the earliest crypto funds.
Hi everybody, my name is Natalia and I run a company called Coop, and at Coop we incubate consumer social crypto products.
Thank you guys. So I'll start in terms of, from your perspective, what does the current AI technology stack look like?
Happy to go first. I kind of break it down into 3 separate parts. The first is the top layer, the application layer, where you find fun things that consumers can interact with and also businesses can interact with. The second underlying that is the middleware layer, where you find maybe ZK inference verification. And I think that's definitely an interesting use case for crypto, but maybe not the most pressing problem right now for crypto AI. And then on the bottom of that is the infrastructure layer, where you find things like decentralized compute, like this maybe Uber model for GPUs, where if you have a spare GPU laying around, you can get paid for somebody using it for AI purposes. I think this is where we find maybe the biggest bottlenecks for crypto, just because compute costs a lot of money, and it really benefits from economies of scale. Like, you really need a lot of, like, the most top line hardware. You need a lot of it in order for AI to be able to use it. And as single individuals like myself, it's a little bit expensive to participate in that, or to have hardware that is useful for AI. But I think it's generally like a very interesting concept, and it's something that needs to get solved.
Happy just to jump in here as well. So I think on the point of what Lauren spoke about for decentralizing access, that's one bottleneck that crypto can help a lot with, in terms of we currently have a few major providers that have closed-sourced models, which only very few people can control. And so if these models one day change, I think access to inference and a lot of these problems will remain. So a lot of, I think, bottlenecks in current AI stacks around compute, model provisions, and model security that can be helped with crypto and cryptography, I think would benefit from that lens. And then a different kind of bottleneck in AI right now is provenance. And it's another big problem in crypto that I think we can help tackle with some very basic cryptography tools that I think AI hasn't been used to. So one example here is C2PA, which is the Content Provenance Authority that a lot of people like Adobe, OpenAI, maybe Stability as well, use for a metadata provenance to figure out whether something is AI generated or not in images and text. And so I think right now there is no central kind of authority that helps you realize whether or not the images or text you've used is generated by AI. And so I think a lot of the provenance and putting a lot of that metadata on chain is a very natural kind of extension of that bottleneck.
I can kind of build off of that idea on the application layer. So if we think about crypto more generally, crypto's the greatest tool that we've created for self-sovereignty. We've managed to decentralize media, property rights, gaming, finance. And so then the question is, why wouldn't we do that with AI? The logical counter argument to all of these points is if you prompt, let's say, ChatGPT, and the output is exactly what you're looking for, then why should a user care, right? I inserted a question, I received a response, and I think the best counter argument to answer that question is just looking at traditional media today. So over the past 50 years, our trust in traditional news outlets has completely corrupted. And the same thing is going to happen for AI models, where the economic incentives and also social biases that have led us to look at micro-influencers, brands, and crowdsourced platforms like X and Reddit to be sources of truth. The same will be said for AI models, and that's what companies like Ritual and Eva are bringing to life today.
Then my next question is, when you look at the integration of AI and blockchain, what elements should be processed on-chain versus off-chain? And there's areas, for example, payments, compute, data, identity, and provenance.
I think out of all of those, I mean, of course, I would love to see most of those go on chain, but I think technically it's not even just technically, but also socially, some of those are really difficult to tackle and to bring on chain. So yeah, basically to your point, I think provenance, or sorry, it was your point, Eva. Provenance is a very difficult and pressing problem that I think is maybe the lowest hanging fruit for crypto at this point.
I think I would agree that provenance is one of the candidates that would make sense to go on chain. I think out of those, one aspect to consider there is how frictionless the experience would be if we were to bring some, for example, storage or other portions of the modeling pipeline on chain. And some parts, I think it's harder to do if you do it on chain. And parts like execution and, for example, payments, it would make more sense to go on chain. So one example here would be, for example, something like privacy, where I think we have a lot of current cryptography tools or ZKVMs that would be helpful if we were to add in some inference layers and privacy layers and to bring it on chain.
And building off of Eva's point, I think that if we look at consumer applications more specifically, for example, if we're looking at a social media algorithm, we need to ask ourselves, does a user today want to generate a proof for that algorithm? If that's a behavior that they're currently not comfortable with, maybe there's a weaker case for proving computability in that situation. But if it's, for example, an ML prover for a DeFi application, there the stakes are higher and there is a real need for it. And so the long scale of these systems, I personally believe, are going to look like enterprise products or developer tools, and the cost of those tools will be subsidized for the users, and as a result, we'll then have a kind of a selection bias for preferences on where we need computability and where we don't need computability. I think today everyone's kind of slapping on a solution into every single use case, but like Eva suggested, it'll definitely be specific to kind of the evolution of these products and how consumer preferences change, where in time users really don't care about privacy, but in the next 5, 10, 15 years, it's going to be increasingly important that you pick a application whose model has privacy baked into it, as well as data composability, which simply means the ability to port your data from one application to the next one running models.
And so this is a very new intersection. There's all these new startups that have launched, and I'm sure a bunch are going to be launching here over the weekend. What excites you most at this intersection, like especially from an investment perspective? And then how do you view this differently as, because some people will say that, oh, AI and crypto is really hot, this is kind of a bubble, and you're seeing token prices that are really high, but this will burst. How would you say that this is different than previous bubbles?
It's a really good question. I guess I'll take it from the top. The first things that I'm looking for as an investor are a really strong team and the ability for that team to build a community around them. I think those are like the two most important things when it comes to building a decentralized protocol in this space. And I think the unfortunate thing that you do see with crypto is that while it is very beautiful that you can incentivize many talented people with lots of different technical and other types of backgrounds to come into this space with tokens, you do tend to see valuations, especially in a market like this, become a little bit divorced from fundamentals. And so, while the usage might not be there, the price is really high. And so as an investor, obviously my job is to make returns for our investors, and I need to be price sensitive. So I think that's like the third thing that I tack on top of my requirements during diligence in a market particularly like this one, where the prices are all going up and many people are raising, and all the VCs are kind of fighting to get into the same types of deals. And then in terms of what is different, this go round, I think I would have said it last bull market as well. Just the quality of people coming into this space, and you're seeing not just, last round it was about DeFi and like the decentralization of financial applications. And there's so many incredible people with like financial backgrounds or fintech backgrounds coming into the crypto space. And this time around, you're seeing obviously AI engineers coming into this space, being really excited about opening up the technology. And I think I don't know that it's different, but it's definitely still exciting.
Yeah, I see that too, just even within the Stability AI community. Getting some of our community to be interested in this intersection and seeing the value in it. It's a whole new segment of developers than previously. So I feel like that's just going to continue to grow, and it's good for the ecosystem. This is my last question. It's a little bit technical, but you guys have engineering backgrounds. So in terms of the future of verifiable compute, what do you think the potential for it is involving cryptography and verifiable AI to drive a new hardware segment? And then do you think that this could unlock significant improvements in performance and economics?
Happy to jump in here. I think with respect to TAEs, which are trusted execution environments, that's a segment a lot of people in AI are focused on that aren't very deep into crypto yet. That's been very exciting. I probably won't speak to that in terms of what the potential are there, but I think that opens up a new realm of things like federated learning, as well as trusted environments for very sensitive applications like healthcare, banking, all of that. I think what's really exciting about crypto and cryptography with verifiability and proofs and different types of proofs is that now you can kind of bundle a lot of the security and verifiability of things like ZK proofs, probabilistic proofs, watermarking in non-trusted hardware. And I think that's what a lot of the work that people in crypto have been working on, that's driven to, for example, verify the security of models and how they're used for inference on chain. And I think that sort of aspect in terms of opening up new hardware that was previously untrusted but now can do a lot of the proofs that can add security and privacy in is pretty interesting.
Do I have time for one more? Okay. And then do we have time for audience questions? We do. Okay. So just one more question. From the perspective of Stability AI, as you guys know, we have all these different open models and so many different modalities. And I think what we're excited about is we really want to democratize AI and put it in the hands of 4 billion people. And a starting point for us has been we have the largest Japanese model, we have the Spanish model, we're partnering with universities in the Middle East to have an Arabic model, and we want to keep on expanding. What would your advice be to the OpenAI community like us in terms of the best starting point, in terms of like in this grand vision of democratizing AI, and because of edge devices, it can more easily be in the hands of people, and you can use a lot of these models even without internet. Like, what do you think is in the interim, like now we should look at, but then 6 months to a year from now, there's something else we should watch out for, and then what is interesting, but it's kind of like 3 or 5 years out?
I can take a swing at it. So just yesterday, it was leaked that Tumblr and WordPress are selling user data to OpenAI and Midjourney, and but we scroll on the Twitter feed and we ignore that information and we continue on with our lives and open up ChatGPT the next day. Where does that become a bigger problem? In applications like WorldCoin. And so to answer your question, what do I think is going to be increasingly important in 3 to 5 years? It's our biometric IDs being encrypted and local to our devices. And so that's sort of what I'm focused on researching and would be relevant to some of the topics that you mentioned.
I think one thing here that is we're starting to see emerge, but isn't quite there yet, is a lot of the security problems in AI, but also in other fields where if you do data poisoning attacks on models, or for example, add backdoors as you're doing model development, it's fairly easy for people to go and have the model do something that you don't necessarily want it to do because you added it into your application. So for example, telling an Uber support app, hey, give me $10. Something like that you can now currently do, and I think this will only get worse as we deploy more AI applications going forward. So I think that is a challenge I don't really have an answer to. I don't think anyone really does right now. That will, I think, continue to grow, but can be helped if we end up decentralizing who ends up running a lot of these models.
No, exactly. I think like our vision is they're not owned by countries, they're not owned by corporations, and they can be like, communities can contribute. Are there any questions from the audience?
Don't be shy. Anything about AI, just curious about.
If not, I think, all right. Yeah.
And say your name.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm from She Is Near DAO. So my question is for you is, people are talking about their fear of AI a lot. And even while we've been here, every single Lyft driver has said, you guys are kind of scary over there. Can you talk a little bit about how you're balancing out what you think is a reasonable concern and fear and what you think is simply hype? And give us your insights on what you think we should focus on.
I think it's a tough problem to solve. I wouldn't go so far as to say as a lot of the security concerns are hype. Like, they are genuine, real concerns, and tech does tend to operate on this model of like, break the rules now, answer for it later. And I think we will probably see this with AI. But I think that is why open source is so important, just so you can kind of set guidelines, people can have transparency into like what is going on, whether it's like open source code or, I don't know what else could be open, like many other things could be open, I guess, but just having more accessibility and making things not as much of a black box.
How are
That's a cool question.
Okay, yeah, as entrepreneurs, what are you guys integrating AI-wise into your stack?
Yeah, I can quickly answer the question. So, in the context of Coop, we're building consumer social networks. What's the biggest problem any network has? It's bootstrapping its initial users. And so, we're finding different ways to create bot systems or agents that can help in bootstrapping an early network. And then, as more quote unquote verified users come into the network, phasing away some of those AIs. So that's like answer number one is bootstrapping early networks. And then number two, I think a big part of this AI hype cycle, in my eyes, the really only hype around it is around like UX for crypto. I think that just like every company has a mobile product, every crypto company will need to be utilizing AI to simplify some of the UX, specifically when it comes to trading. So those are some of the ways that we're thinking about it.
So we're more of an infrastructure company, as in we think a lot about, or I spend my time really thinking about a lot of model storage, model inference, some of the pipeline there. But I could talk about maybe what some of our partners have been thinking about in terms of integrating AI into their stack. So one use case has been, we had a prototype back in November that was using a chatbot to make a game. And a lot of the game would perform actions with respect to that protocol, where you can now do things like trading, but also generating images, generating fun little aspects that would answer questions about a protocol. So that's like one thing I've seen. There's lots of other kinds of ways to use AI for projects that I don't think we've covered, but maybe Rahilla.
Well, we make, we're making the models that we're excited, and just in terms of audio, video, 3D, link. But I think the comments here are really great just about, I think that there's going to be an evolution really quickly, like this year and next year, where there's a better global framework, where the point about easier accessibility to compute, easier accessibility to hardware. So it's going to make it much easier for founders to incorporate a lot of this tooling. Well, that's what the vision that we have at Stability, and kind of I'm here because we're meeting with the community of builders here, thinking about how can we create this together so this is accessible. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.